Rhapsody in Blue is my favorite piece, Kangsan, and out of the history of music, it's the thing I want to play on piano the most. I gave this piece to you, and you started studying it of your own accord voluntarily, quite extensively. What is it about Rhapsody in Blue that captivated you and drew your attention to the point that you wanted to volunteer so much of your own time into playing it?
I think what drew me the most to Rhapsody in Blue, of course, a big part of it was the actual content, but I think even the context around it. So when you originally presented it to me, because it was in 1924, pretty much more than 100 years ago, I saw that when it premiered, it was pretty much the big thing, it differed so much from the jazz that happened before it. And even in the past songs that we were doing together, there was more of the clean harmony, melody. Well, this one's, not only was it so much different back then, it was still so different from the stuff that we had learned in the past. And so all the harmonic, messiness of it was really what drew it to me.
Yeah, because this is a piece that hybridized classical and jazz in a way that hadn't really been done so much before. And what's amazing about it is, it's from 1924. We're doing, of course, that arrangement from 1924, but it's still so startling to this extent. What do you like about the piano solos themselves? Because this piece, which Gershwin would have played in the premiere, the big piano solo, this is a concerto of sorts. So what is it about the piano solos that appeals to you, and is there any part of those solos that you like best?
I think there's two things that I love about the piano solos. Its interaction with the orchestra, how it's kind of like a question and an answer, and then a question and an answer. And how it kind of, even though it's a different instrument, you can see how it mimics a bunch of different instruments. And in Rhapsody in Blue, I would say maybe there's 5 themes, like motifs, but they all get repeated throughout the thing. And I think a lot of the time you'll see that the orchestra takes one theme, and then once they're done, then the piano starts to do it, and then it's a back and forth. And especially in the, the love kind of thing, the orchestra gets the, and then it tosses to the piano. I mean, first it's just the orchestra, then it's orchestra and piano, and then it's just piano. And that's a big part of it. And I think a lot of the time, even in the beginning, you can see that after the trumpet solo and the piano gets introduced, you can almost hear the piano answering to the call of the, solos. And on the other side of how it's kind of mimicking different instruments, I think the fact that, there's so many transcriptions of this, especially a lot of them with the piano is its own orchestra, I think a lot of the time you can see that reflect onto the, full score with the orchestra. And you can see how some of the piano maybe styles or the techniques mimic a lot of other instruments.
Yeah, Gershwin wrote this piece, but it was orchestrated, in this case, by Ferdi Grofé. So Gershwin, there's a lot of debate as to how much of the orchestration belongs to Gershwin and how much doesn't. But it's in so many ways a piano piece, right? Mm-hmm. So in being a piano piece, it then was on this particular collaboration, and also with Paul Whiteman's band, there are aspects of this that were written for the players he had to use them most effectively. But you're right in that if you do this as a piano solo, you lose certain aspects. That's why the piano solo, we originally learned this as a solo. Mm-hmm. And there are whole chunks of the solo that are missing, because if you did them, though you could, it'd be quite extensive, you don't have the contrast of the orchestra bits versus the piano bits. So then we did the 2-piano version, but this is your first opportunity to play it with the orchestra. Is there a particular section that you're most looking forward to having your piano complement what's happening in the orchestra? Like, is there a particular moment of you can't wait to hear what that sounds like for those things to be uniting?
I would say probably 2 things. The big orchestra solo in the leading up to the end, and the actual end itself, because the big orchestra, violins, winds, I think that's going to be really interesting to hear outside of like YouTube. I think it's one thing to be listening to it, on like watch phone, but it's another thing to be actively listening to it just about maybe 6 feet away. And also the end, it's really, the orchestra is really good at building things up when the piano can't do on its own. Because the piano part by itself, even with the solo version, of course it builds up, but not to the extent that, 20 instruments can too.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There are huge parts of this that I think are going to be quite startling for people who know the or symphonic version. And you're going to have the best seat to hear it because you'll be inside. In fact, you'll be able to pick apart the separate instruments in a way that the audience will actually get the blend. In some cases, that means you have like the most. You won't hear what the audience hears, but you're going to have almost the most interesting seat in the whole thing. If I have one spot I'm looking forward to, it's so simple, but it's so thrilling. It's that first big statement of that opening theme, but when it's finally in tempo. And you lead into it with bam bam and you basically tee up the orchestra to explode in A major, and then you have those great chords. Can you play the chords that come after that? So simple, but like that is the signal that you're not done, that I'm still going to be here for the next foreseeable future. And I think the ending. I mean, if I have a single favorite spot of the whole thing. My favorite theme, they're all so good, but I'm just huge into because it's so catchy. And that final statement of it, when we all do that together, can you play what you play when you finally play? You're just playing the tune, right? At the very end. Let's hear what that sounds like. That's great because no one in the orchestra has the tune there.
Right.
So the orchestra
is just
but tutti, so it's going to be quite easy to catch that. Cool. Well, the show is coming up soon, so we better get ready and practice some more. We'll see you later.